Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss Pre-Market Report for April 19th, 2017. I'm Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Here's a look at the daily time frame of the ES. The previous session, we were looking for bulls to defend the 2334 halves for the most part. Price got down a little below that, but live in the trading room, we knew that that low could be a spike low that brings us at least back toward the midpoint of the pattern here. By the end of the day, we got that. So overall, bulls continue to defend here and hold price above 2334 halves, and 2340 continues to be a battle line as well. Short term, the flow is kind of to the upside here as bulls are trying to push this thing higher. The only problem is we've seen lower highs, we've seen lower lows throughout this time, and we're kind of stuck in the middle of this channel here. And it's not really giving us a lot of great energy to really see much movement at the moment. Now there is a potential here to get a nice breakout and try to really get above 2350 into 2360 and 70, but even then we're still in the range. So right now this market has really kind of died down here after that spike high, this pullback. This has really become the range here, and so we're seeing lots of back and forth digestion. We haven't really wanted to come and see expansion just yet, which means, again, we could just continue to roll higher and trade in this range. So that makes for very difficult swing conditions right now. We are coiling up. We have an inside day that's building. But to say we have a trade with high confidence right now is overstating it. Right now, 2334 is a nice pivot. We could see a little bit more strength above 2347s, but again, this is not the best range right here to engage on a swing basis. If we take a look at the intraday time frame, there we go. On the intraday time frame, what you're seeing here is that the previous session we had a great squeeze. This is what I mentioned before. I said pre-market yesterday, we have a great impulse range here with a midpoint. That's going to become your range to trade off of the rest of the day. You can see how price traded within that range. Here we got outside the range, and this is when we got that spike low and a drive back up. And I mentioned to our group the next pullback could be the buying opportunity that brings us back up. A great absorption signature formed off the edge. We got a reversal right back to the midpoint, and all was well, and now we're trading back around 1 and 5 day VPOC. So we're still in the range. We're still in the range right now, and overall, we may continue to trade in this near-term range between 34.5 and 47 before any significant expansion occurs. Now the flow short term is to the upside, medium term is to the downside, long term is to the upside. So we have kind of a mixed picture here, and that's why you're seeing some of this chop. But right now these are the key levels to watch heading into today's RTH. Let's take a look at CL. CL with a great trading range in a short-term time frame. If you look at the daily chart, you'll see that over the last several days, very, very tightly coiled price action here. 52.5 has become the support level. I am downward adjusted from 52.70. And look at the last 4 days here, very, very narrow. Typically speaking, the market cannot facilitate trade within such a narrow range, and it continues to get more and more narrow. So that would suggest expansion at some point. What I've mentioned before is the current strength is very, very bullish. Should price push below 52.50, watch for signs of rejection, because as soon as price gets back above it, that could be the go signal for a continuation into 54.5 and 55s. So anytime you have a major bullish trend like this, any failed new low is an opportunity to springboard this thing higher. So be watching for that. If there is a violation of 52.5, price could drop as far back down to 50 and still be considered a buying opportunity for another push back up. So bulls really have a good upper hand at the moment, and we'll be watching 52.50 for signs of expansion or failed range expansion given the nature of how tightly coiled this range is. We do have EIA coming up at 9:30 today Central, so that'll be something that to watch for. But the current trading range is very, very nice. If you look at the edges, 52.50 down on the bottom here, 52.55 up here, 53.25, and it's a fade the edges type of affair right now. We do have some compression going on heading into the EIA, but again, these are the outer edges to fade, and then look for expansion in the near term. All right, let's take a look at the NQ. Great intraday key range for the NQ. If we look at the higher time frame chart first, though, what you'll notice here is, again, bulls defending the midpoint of the previous session. That was very important. We talked about 53.75 half being an important zone, and it held. It held throughout the day, and that was important. That tells you bulls have upper hand right now. After this squeeze day here, closed bullishly, they were able to defend the midpoint, which was our idea, and there is a little potential here to see a further squeeze to the upside, perhaps in the 53.32, which is the 100% expansion of the current intraday key range. So there could be a little bit more upside at the moment, but again, this is very similar to the ES, where the edges of the range are out here. And right now, price is trading precisely at the center of the range. Not a lot of edge at that moment. So on a swing basis, makes for a very difficult trade location right now. Nothing really great to latch onto. But if you drop into the intraday chart, you can see that the key range that we identified yesterday, as you mentioned, we had the impulse move down like in the ES, and then it shot back to the midpoint eventually. That gave us our key range. And look at how price came up to the top of the key range, could not hold, back down to the middle, back down to the bottom. One tick off the low, and then back up to the middle, back up to the top. We're now sitting just outside that range. So this is a great key range again to fade. You can see fade new highs, fade new lows. That's a new high, fade it. This right here is a new high. So far, bears looking to fade it. And the first return would be back to intraday VPOC, which is 53.98 quarter, and then perhaps a move all the way to 5-day VPOC 53.85. As long as 53.75s remain bid, the short-term direction is up. But again, we're in a range-bound market at the moment. Look to fade the edges until proven otherwise. Let's take a look now at ZB. ZB had quite a move the previous session here, pushing through major resistance and LVN resistance. You can see the day right here, big time day. The midpoint is at the previous session's high. That shows true expansion beyond the stops there. You can also see right here, we're at 154.07. That's that major area of resistance there, and you can see right around that zone is about where price has gone. This was a major squeeze through that level, and now price is already back to the pivot to test. So this all happened very quickly, but as I mentioned before, any acceptance above 154s opens the door to a move to 160. But anytime you come into this level after a major rally, the market may be overextended this time. So I'd still be watching for signs of failed range expansion here and perhaps a trap that could return prices back toward value. That's 149.24. So that's an idea right now that I'll be watching for should there be a failure to hold above 154.07s. So keep that in mind. Now if we do pull back and there's bulls that come in, then there might be an opportunity to try again. But right now we've seen a lot of strength. Price is holding above resistance for the first time in months this year, really. Any failure there could easily lead to a return back toward that 149.24, so keep an eye on that. Now, on an intraday basis, we've pulled back after a trending market. We're coming into that support. Here's 154.07. That's a big-time level. So after the expansion here, the expectation would be at least short-term, bulls would want to defend that level and try to get higher. Any failure after that could lead to a move into the next low is VPOC 153.17 and 153.24. All right, quick announcement. If you go to PivotBossMasters.com and go to news, you'll see the latest post here, learning about PivotBoss Masters Edge. Click on that post there. You'll get access to the recording that we had for our lunchtime date yesterday. Great feedback for this quick session, especially for those that wanted to learn more about Masters. We do have a deal going on right now that you can also learn about. So you can go over to PivotBossMasters.com and check it out. All right, that's it for now. Let's see how this thing plays out heading into the rest of the session. Good luck and trade well.